A long time ago, in the Empire of Babylon, there was a king named Xerxes who was looking for a woman to be his queen. He declared, "Let a search be made for all beautiful young women for the king." So the king gathered all the young women and brought them to his palace. Now, there was in the city of Susa a Jew named Mordecai. Many Jews had been exiled from their home in Jerusalem and were now living in King Xerxes' empire. Mordecai had a cousin named Esther, whom he had raised as his own daughter because she was an orphan. And Esther was very beautiful. When the king's order was proclaimed in Susa, Esther was also taken to the king's palace. Quickly, she won favor with the leaders there, and she received special beauty treatments. However, Esther did not tell anyone that she was a Jew because Mordecai strictly warned her not to. Finally, the day came for Esther to meet the king. When he saw her, he was attracted to Esther more than any of the other women. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her his queen. A few years later, a man named Haman rose to power in King Xerxes' court. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman. But Mordecai would not kneel before him. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet once he learned that Mordecai was a Jew, Haman decided that he didn't just want to kill Mordecai, but to destroy all the Jews in the empire. So Haman went to the king and said, "There is a certain people group throughout your empire who are different from our people, and they do not obey the king's laws. If it pleases the king, let a decree be made to destroy them, and I will even pay for this to happen." The king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman. "Keep the money," the king said to Haman, "and do with these people as you please." So Haman wrote a decree to destroy the Jews on a single day at the end of that year. After Mordecai heard the news, he sent a message to Esther, who was unaware of Haman's evil plan. Mordecai told Esther to go to the king and plead with him for her people. However, Esther replied, "Everyone knows that if someone goes into the king's presence uninvited, that they will be put to death unless the king extends the gold scepter to them." Mordecai responded, "Esther, if you remain silent at this time, deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you will perish. Who knows, but perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." Then Esther sent this message to Mordecai, "Go gather all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me for 3 days. I and my attendants will do the same, and when this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace. When the king saw Queen Esther, he was pleased with her and held out the gold scepter. The king asked, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request?" "If it pleases the king," replied Esther, "let the king, together with Haman, come to a banquet I have prepared for him." So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared. As they were feasting, the king again asked Esther, "Now, what is your request?" Then Queen Esther answered, "If I have found favor with you, your majesty, please spare my life and the lives of my people, for I and my people have been sentenced to be destroyed." "Who is he?" the king demanded. "Where is the man who has dared to do such a thing?" "This enemy Haman," Esther declared. Then Haman was terrified before the king and queen. He tried to make excuses, but the king would not hear it. And Haman was taken away and sentenced to death for his deceptive and evil actions. King Xerxes then gave his signet ring to Esther and Mordecai and placed them in charge of writing a new decree that would protect the Jews. And when the new decree was proclaimed, there was joy and gladness among the Jews with much celebration. God used Mordecai and Esther to save his people from evil because they did what was right and had courage.